the same thing, just different logos. But they out there, and they do have potential. You mean to tell me that the Nation of Islam, who can bring 2 million men, now not women included, men to Washington, D.C., don't have the ability to create fundamental change for black people? You mean the Black Lives Matter don't have the ability to create massive fundamental changes for black people? You mean to tell me just the many groups of people and individuals that marched because of George Floyd don't have the ability to bring change? Yes, they do. But they're not doing the right thing. So this lawyer says, as we move forward, we can learn much from what Professor Richardson has articulated about the inherent right and ability of African Americans and other peoples of color within the United States to be self-determinant. Should we choose to move beyond demands for equitable treatment and frame our struggles in terms of decolonization and self-determination, he has laid the foundation for us. Professor Richardson does not presume to undertake that task for us, for by definition, one cannot dictate how others should exercise their right to self-determination. Rather, he identifies tools available in law. That's what we're doing. We're identifying the law, and we're identifying what the lawyers suggest that we do as black people. So I know you may say, I'm crazy, so you won't follow my suggestion. But these are Ivy League scholars suggesting for us what to do. And last but not least, this is what a congressman said about self-determination. Then we're going to open up this call. This is, if you look at your screen I'm sharing, this is a hearing. U.S. policy toward national self-determination movements. Now, they actually had a congressional Senate hearing about self-determination movements. We're a national self-determination movement. That's why we're on this call. What did the chairman of this, chairman, senator, congressman say at this meeting? I'm just going to read like 3 sentences from this congressman. As advocates of democratic government and human rights, this is what he's saying, a 30-year congressman. As advocates of democratic government and human rights, we cannot help but have sympathy with the grievances of many of these self-determination movements. They are often based on legitimate complaints and aspire to change a political structure that they quite often had no voice in creating. I think Jackson, we loved it at Jackson, I think it was created in, 1882? Something, it was in the 1800s. I don't think no black people in Jackson had a hand in creating that political system. Look at when your city was created. Now let's go and look at when the federal government was created in the 1700s. How many of us on this call had a hand in creating that government? Or our foreparents, our ancestors. I know some of us got raped in our family, but the black ones, we didn't have no hand. So we got to change the political structure. We have a right to change the political structure where we live, because we didn't have no voice in creating that. This is a congressman talking. I'm just going to read his last words. So the first of all, he said this. And after all, our country is a product of the self-determination movement. And those white folks, they exercised their right of self-determination. They stood up against the British and said, look, we don't like the way we're being treated. Were they being treated as worse as black people were being treated and are being treated now? Of course not. But they had a right to self-determination. So they said they declared their independence. Then he says, some worry that self-determination movements will have a domino effect. That's what they worried. They worried about not just it happening once in Detroit or Jackson. They know good and well that once black people in Jackson or Detroit do this and are successful, the tens of millions of black people across the country who are sick and tired of being sick and tired are going to do the same thing. This is what he writes as well, says, one of the reasons why I believe that we have to control our borders to make sure that people coming into our country, into this country, are regulated to the point that they are absorbed into our society. Now, you're talking about people coming into the country, namely immigrants, Mexicans. But it applies to black people. They're making sure that we are absorbed. Now, that's one way of defeating our aspiration for liberation. That's one of the reasons behind the demise of self-determination. Because we don't want self-determination because we absorb into this country. We feeling good. We living with white folks. We working with them. They giving us a check. Hey, they making us head of the country. They're making us head of the corporations. We're getting some superficial adjustments. We're getting absorbed into this thing. So we're not going to expire. He's admitting that technique, not just for Mexicans, but for black people, those who can assert this right. Make sure they are absorbed. Make sure we dumb down. He says, but I will say that if we permit people into our country and permit them here legally, they have rights just like we do. They absorb into their political parties as well. I was upset, and even though I like this mayor, he seems like a good person that's going to be a future great leader. Why, when you finally decide to get into politics as a revolutionary, you don't create your own revolutionary political party. You absorb yourself into a slave-making party called the Democratic Party. We absorbed. But let me go for it. He says, but I will say that if we permit people into our country and permit them here legally, they have rights just like we do. That is why we have to control our borders. And if the majority of people in San Diego end up being people who would prefer that they live in Mexico, I'm sorry. They have a right to vote on it. And it's adios, San Diego. This is a 30-year congressman out of one of the largest congressional districts in the United States. 30-year congressman. He knows what he's talking about. This meeting that he's at, this hearing, is about self-determination. He's saying that people have a right to assert self-determination, and it's as simply as holding a vote on it. Black people, wherever we are, whether it be on a local level like Detroit, Jackson, we have a right to hold our own vote. Not a vote by them. We can host our own vote, which we are doing here in Jackson as we speak. And ask the people, do we want to be independent? If the people say yes, it's adios, Mississippi State Ku Klux Klan legislators. It's adios, Joe Biden and American racist federal government. Now we can control our own city. We can leverage those city assets and give ourselves monetary reparations. What black people live in America is worth over $15 trillion in real estate value alone. That's real estate value, not geographical value. Geographical value, Detroit itself is worth over $70 trillion. So we got all this in our hands, and all we have to do is ask the people in our community, do you want to be independent, and tell them the benefits of independence. And if they vote on it, then it's adios to that system, and now we are in control ourselves. That's the purpose of our call, to let our people know that, look, we have a right of self-determination, and it's as simple as organizing a vote amongst our people and being courageous enough to just stand up and say, look, we declare independence. You come in here and try to forcibly deny that. We have a right, a human right, to defend that self-determination by any means necessary. By any means. Some of us think when the Palestinians do a suicide bomb in what they're trying to call Israel now, and even kill some of the Israeli babies, we think that's wrong and it's against the law. Actually, it's lawful according to international law, because those people, those so-called white Jews, Israelis, are forcibly denying those Palestinians of their right of self-determination by taking their territory. And they have a right to defend that. We have a right to defend. I'm not telling anybody to strap themselves up some bombs and go go to a white baby with a daycare center or nothing like that. But what I'm saying is we have a right to defend that once we declare our independence. And that's what we suggest all our revolutionary groups. We have a lot of revolutionary groups out there. They love getting into formations and marching with their guns. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not criticizing that. What I'm criticizing is when we invite you to actually stand up like real soldiers, and you express fear of standing up like real soldiers, not to shoot up anything, but to stand in defense as your people assert their right of self-determination, because it's the only thing to protect further loss of life at the hands of the police, or at the hands of gentrification, or the biggest killer of all, at the hands of poverty. So people on this call, this is what this call is about our right of self-determination. We hope that you take this in and digest it, and I hope it resonates with you so that you can make that decision to stand with us or stand where you are and organize behind this framework. We're going to open up this call for questions, answers, shout-outs, as well as critiques and input. But before we do that, Comrade Sierra, we're going to allow Comrade Dan, if he's there, to give us a couple of guidelines so that this call can go by smoothly, peacefully as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And welcome to the Human Rights Policy Officer. Salute to you all. Welcome to all the new guests. I see we have quite a few new participants on this web conference, which is great. That means we're moving forward. I'm here. My name is Daniel Glover, Senior Human Rights Policy Officer and dedicated defender of the human rights of our people. Now, we've all heard and listened very well, and also seen the documents placed into the chat section. These documents were placed there for you to download, for you to research, for you to understand and to make yourself aware. And so when you go out into the neighborhoods and speak with your families and your community, that you will be fully aware and fully knowledgeable of what these rights, rules, and laws are. We're talking about the supreme laws that says you have this right. No one can deny it. This right overshadows, I just say overshadows, and is in correspondence and above the Constitution. So when you see and hear these types of laws being spoken, I want you to know that this is it. This is all we need to do. The right of self-determination, according to the International Covenant, are the supreme law. Please keep your mics muted until I'm done speaking. These are the supreme laws. So there's no reason for there to be any doubt. There's no reason for there to be any fears. There's no reason for you to go looking somewhere else for anything else to do what needs to be done when you have it right here in your hand. This is the blueprint. The right of self-determination to assert your right, sign the referendum, and if you agree with what you've heard said, then follow and participate in what we're doing here to benefit our people, to benefit my children. I have grandchildren. I want them to be able to live a life of prosperity, not a life of poverty, not a life of gentrification, not a life of mass incarceration and police assassination. These are the things that we're working for and working towards. Also, anyone that feel as though that they are able and capable, and they feel it in their heart that now their minds have been awakened to want to stand on this document, on these documents, on these rights, these human rights, then we also would like for you to register and sign up as a human rights policy officer. That's what this is about. It's about what we're going to do for what we are going to do for our people. We don't need you, but we would like to have you. When I say don't need, because if you need something, you don't get it, you feel like a failure. But we definitely want you to stand for and with the people, the human rights policy officers, to make sure this is put through and make sure it's successful. But now I actually was here to give some guidelines, rules, so everyone has the opportunity to ask their questions. But first of all, if you want to ask a question, you will highlight your microphone, tap your screen, highlight your mic, ask your question, and then go back on mute. If you have a comment along with that question, you ask your question first, let it be answered, and then by Comrade Ramzu only. As no one is supposed to put any responses or answers in these chat sections or to speak out verbally to try to answer this question. We want you to have the proper answer. And if we don't have that answer for the question that you asked before this conference is over, you will have your answer. Always go in the chat section and put your comment or question in there, and it will be read out by our Comrade Malak. We will read your comment out. Everyone will be heard. This is not no one-sided thing where you ask a question and it's never answered. Everyone will be heard. This is your opportunity. This is the real world, real life. These are the human rights policy officers operating under the human rights laws. We're not operating under constitutional or civil rights laws. This is human rights laws. So I thank you. I appreciate it. Also, we have a hotline. If you don't want to put your comment or question in the chat or either speak it out verbally, you can always call the hotline, 888-999-6530. And your question will be answered there. But we want everyone to make